Dr Hilary's back, and we should say, of course, happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
Honestly, it's ridiculous. Men are so annoying. Can I say how old you are?
I'm 72. Something wonderful happened 72 years ago.
Something fabulous happened 72 years ago. I can't believe it's ridiculous.
I've got a very good makeup department here.
No,
after me. Helen's been great there. You know,
she is.
She's great.
She is. But to be fair, she's got great material to work on. Now, look, we were talking about the Coronation Street storyline about Alzheimer's, weren't we? And news this morning that there's 2 new drugs for Alzheimer's, but they won't be made available on the NHS. Now, I can understand people being irate about this and deeply upset.
On the face of it, they'll be disappointed, won't they? But the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence have said that on the basis of cost efficacy, it really can't be justified. So we're talking about 2 drugs, donanemab and lecanemab. These are both monoclonal antibodies which target the cause of Alzheimer's. They target the amyloid protein that builds up in plaques inside the brain, entangling the nerve cells and causing cognitive decline. Now, when they did the trials, they found that, yes, it did slow down that decline by 20%, and the other drug, lecanemab, slowed it down by about 27%, improved the quality of life somewhat, but not completely. So it's not a cure, it's disease-modifying. But 15% of people had side effects. Some of them had bleeds on the brain, and there were some fatalities. So when they looked at the safety, the cost and the efficacy, they just said, we can't justify this on the NHS. Treating 1 patient for a year would cost the same as a year's nursing salary. And when there's only limited benefit, they've got to say we've got to prioritise the NHS money for other things.
I suppose, trying to find some light somewhere, at least there's progress being made.
There's progress.
But then you sort of think to yourself, OK, what if they do come up with a cure but they can't afford to give it to everybody? That's the worry, isn't it?
Well, that's always the worry. Of course, the more research you do and the more you find and you produce things in bulk, it gets cheaper as time goes on. But these drugs are a model for other drugs that might follow, that might be more effective and safer.
I hope
so 50,000 to 280,000 patients might have benefited a bit, but the cost is
but when you've got that illness, or when somebody you love has got that illness, even 1% something, isn't it, to hold on to? That's for sure. Now, look, what about new research into, you know, we're all sort of trying to be healthier, living our lives healthier, and we get bombarded with all these products that we should be taking. What do we think?
Well, look, I mean, there was a report done by Green Chef which surveyed 2,000 people, and apparently people are spending £2,000 every year on viral wellness products. So they go on social media. This looks like a fantastic miracle cure. But is it things like protein shakes? Very, very popular, very trendy. But are they worth the money? So £2,000 a year is a lot. And some of them, 48% of people, are actually prioritising over a natural, healthy diet. 60% in Gen Z are doing that. So that's a worry. So they might be using stuff that hasn't been verified or isn't trustworthy.
And they're sort of thinking to themselves, here, I'm doing myself a bit of good.
But I think they can spend a lot of money on things that aren't necessarily
What about
good.
things like, though, we're always hearing about these menopause pills that you can take that's going to help you out. What do you think?
Well, you know, there are 48 different symptoms, at least, of the menopause, and women feel invisible and desperate, so they go for something that might help, supplements that are said good for menopause. But are they actually targeted for the menopause, or are they just vitamins dressed up as in a menopause packet?
You could probably get cheaper.
That you could get cheaper just going for the vitamin. I would say look for the M-tick, which means it's trusted, it's evidence-based, it's verified, quality assured. So the M-tick on a product is really good to have. But there are certain things that I would say are useful in the menopause. Certainly vitamin D, particularly, is good because it helps to absorb the calcium, which keeps bones strong. Because when you lose oestrogen after the menopause, the bones get more brittle and you're more at risk of osteoporosis. Calcium, of course, so dairy products or calcium from other sources, green leafy vegetables, soya, that sort of thing. Very important, again, to keep bones strong. And then magnesium. Insomnia is a massive symptom in the perimenopause and the menopause. So magnesium glycinate, particularly that salt, is very good for calming the mind, inducing sleep, and just for good relaxation. Produces serotonin and melatonin, the sleep hormones. So those 2 things are the kind of things you want to look for.
No, exactly. And you mentioned the protein shakes as well. Can you make them yourself, or rather than buying them? Or
well, you can, of course you can do. I mean, I'd rather people eat lean meat, fish, you know, eggs, beans. get protein from your diet. Women need about 45 grams a day, men 55 grams. We don't need a lot, unless we're Schwarzenegger in the gym bodybuilding. You know, we don't need that much protein, and actually too much is bad for our kidneys. So I think protein shakes are very trendy at the moment. They don't have any fibre in there. They might have artificial sweeteners in there. And yeah, they're good for for workout recovery. If you're a gym bunny or an athlete, sure. But I think people are taking them, you know.
Yeah, but maybe they don't need to. What about libido pills, Hilary?
Libido. Well, people have always been looking for aphrodisiacs. You know, I tried a dozen oysters once. Only 3 of them worked, so I wouldn't recommend that. You've got your libido gummies.
Oh yeah.
There, but they contain things like maca, which is a sort of South American herb, isn't it? But there's no evidence that it works. Menopause tablets, again, we've talked about that, protein shakes there. So aphrodisiacs, there's nothing really... You know, sex drive comes from up here. It comes from the brain, not from down there. And it's about romancing your partner and relaxing and spending time.
Exactly. So, I know, ice facials. Joan Crawford used to do this, the famous superstar. She used to put her face in ice with some witch hazel. You've got one there. Dare I ask you to do it?
Meant to be
Will
good.
it work? And is it worth it?
Meant to be good for puffiness, for redness, for closing
God, are you really actually going to do it?
And you're meant to put your face in there like...
I can't believe you did that. Happy birthday to you.
And it's very refreshing. Yeah. I'm ready to go.
He's ready to go.
Looking for more health and wellness content? Well, there's plenty more really useful information right here on our channel. How about you check out this one?